Hi, my name's Laura Seeger. I'm 2.5 months out from rotator cuff surgery on my right arm, which is my dominant arm. Before my surgery, I watched a lot of really good YouTube videos and I got a lot of tips on recovery and how to get things ready for when I came home after surgery. But there were a few things that I discovered that were additional tips. I just wanted to share those with you in case they would be beneficial to someone else in their recovery. My first tip is, hopefully you have someone who will be with you that first 24 hours or first couple of days after your surgery. Put that person in charge of your pain medicine schedule. I came home with 2 different kinds of pain medicine as well as a pain pump with a catheter in my neck, to the side of my neck, which I could pump and have additional pain medicine if I needed it. I also had anti-nausea medicine and anti-constipation medicine. That's a lot to keep track of, especially when you're on that pain medicine and you're recovering. So I would suggest if someone's staying with you, give them a pad of paper and a pen and have them keep track of that pain medicine for you. If you don't have anyone there, do make sure you have that pad of paper and a pen so that you can keep track of it yourself, because you are in a little bit of a fog and it's going to be hard for you to keep track of what's going on. My second tip really isn't a tip, it's more advice, but that is, don't be afraid to take your pain medicine. Okay, I had people my second day on pain meds say to me, gee, maybe you don't want to take this pain medicine, you don't want to get addicted. Well, when you have this medicine, you're already having pain. You're going to have pain even when you're taking all of the medicine, which I didn't realize. I thought it would knock everything out. Well, it doesn't. Your pain medicine allows you to manage your pain. So you're not going to be able to do without it for the first couple of days at least. I was on my pain meds for 8 days. The first 5 on the regular schedule. The last 3 I did taper off quite a bit and I didn't need it as much, and at 8 days I stopped taking completely. I do now and again take Tylenol if I need it for pain after physical therapy and that kind of thing, but for the most part you really won't probably need anything. I did have one of my biceps cut and repaired because it would have been in the way of the tendon repair. My rotator cuff was completely torn, and so they did have to do some surgery there to reattach it, and so they did cut one of my biceps and move it. So it does involve a lot of pain. My bicep was kind of shredded a little bit, so it needed repair as well. So you do have a lot of pain with this rotator cuff surgery when it's a complete tear. Make sure that when you go to bed at night, especially that first night, that you have access to your pain meds. You probably are going to wake up 2, 3 in the morning or so, and you're going to be in pain. Your caregivers may be asleep at the time, and you may not be able to open those bottles of meds. So make sure they put a dose in a cup for you by your table, or whatever you can do to have that available for you. I would also say that if you don't have small children, you might want to not get the childproof caps on your meds. I didn't think about that at all, but then I couldn't open any of the medicine myself. So in the middle of the night, I either had to wake someone up or try to open it, and I had a lot of pain, so I did end up opening it the first night myself, and that probably isn't a real good idea. So make sure that you do have a way to access your meds in the middle of the night without having to wake others up. My next tip is, if you have long hair, have someone put that up for you at night, either in a ponytail back or wear a scarf, because when you're sleeping, especially if you're sleeping propped up or in a recliner, you can end up, I woke up a couple of mornings with these huge tangles in my hair, and it took forever for me to get them out. So if someone can do that for you, if you have long hair, I'd suggest that. That's just something, it's a small little tip, but it's something I hadn't even thought about ahead of time. My next tip is about a recliner. Before surgery, people suggested to me that I get a recliner, either borrow one, rent one, buy one, whatever. So I wasn't going to get the recliner, and the more people talked about it, the more I thought, well, maybe that's what I should do. We did end up buying a recliner, which has adjustable headrest, adjustable lower back, and adjustable legs, feet on it. And it's adjustable with a remote control that's on a long cord that I could use with my left hand, which was what I had to work with. My right arm was the one that was operated on, and so I did have that ability to pull it over, because as you know, most recliners have all the adjustability on that right side down on the side, and I knew that wasn't going to be possible with my right arm being operated on. I would suggest that you get a recliner, borrow one, rent one, whatever you need to do. I don't know that I could have slept at all without it. It really was a lifesaver for me, because you're so uncomfortable, and you know, you sleep because you're taking the pain medicine, but it really is very helpful to have that recliner. My next tip is, if you do have a recliner with that kind of remote, the one problem with it is when you get up and down in that chair, sometimes that remote falls down, and it's going to fall down to your right side. If you've had surgery on your right side, you're going to have a hard time reaching over to try to get that remote back so that you can get out of the chair. You may not be able to reach it. What I did was I took, as in this picture, a large clip and clipped it to the blanket that I used in my chair. That way I always had the remote, you know, right there by me. I could get out of the chair by myself, because believe me, you don't want to rely on someone else to be there to get you out of that chair, and you don't want to risk falling. So I would say, you know, definitely if you have that kind of remote on your chair, clip it to your blanket, you'll be all set. My next tip is have a lot of loose clothing available to wear when you get home from surgery. On your days of recovery, especially the early days, but for quite a while, you're not going to be able to zip pants, you're not going to be able to put a tight shirt on over your head and pull it over. You're going to want to have things that are very loose that you can easily put on. The first couple of days, if you're going to be home, you could just wear pajamas or something, you'd be fine. But after that, you are going to want to have some things that are easy to wear. I found that dresses were the easiest for me, especially when you have this pain pump catheter, which is hooked to your sling, and you're trying to go to the restroom, and you're trying to, you know, juggle everything. Dress is much easier than trying to pull pants up and down. So although some videos did suggest pull on pants, I would say if you're a woman, go for those dresses. It's going to be the easiest for you. Another tip is have a lot of drinking water in your fridge ahead of time. That may sound silly, but I didn't realize I was so thirsty when I got home, and for the first 5 days or so, I was thirsty all the time. So people were bringing me bottles of water, which I couldn't open, so I had to have them open them for me. And I know that wasn't the best environmentally friendly way to have my water, but it was just easy for them to just bring me a cold bottle of water. But make sure you do have access to, you know, you have cold water in your fridge, or those, you know, bottles of water or something, so that you can drink and get hydrated. I don't know what it was about that, and it may just be that it was something that was specific to me, but I just couldn't get enough water to drink. This is a picture of my table that was next to the recliner, and how I had it set up when I came home. The only thing missing is my cell phone, which I used to take this picture. But otherwise, I have my iPad there. I have my remote for my TV, for my Apple TV, paper and pen in case I need it, a clock so I can keep track, if I need to keep track myself, could keep track of my meds and the timing of taking them, some lotion, something to read, Kleenex. And also they sent me home with that little red ball just to exercise my hand to keep the blood flowing. Also have my bottle of water, and another thing that's really handy to have is something to hold your cords. You'll see that blue coiled looking thing on the table, and that held my chargers for my iPad and my iPhone, so they didn't fall down on the floor, because it's really hard to find them and get down there once you've had surgery to try to fish those things out. I hope these tips were helpful for you. Overall, it was a good experience for me. I mean, I think as good as it could be when you're having this extreme shoulder surgery. I think it's well worth it so that you can get that strength back in your arm. Like I said, I'm 2.5 months out from my surgery, and my arm has gotten a lot of strength back. At 6 weeks, after 6 weeks, I was able to stop wearing my sling. I did wear it the next week on a trip out of town, If you're out and about and there are a lot of people around, if you've just stopped wearing your sling, you may want to put it back on again just for that trip, which is what my doctor advised. People will see that and they'll be a little more careful, hopefully, around you and not run into your shoulder, which is really a concern when you're healing. You don't want anyone to run into you and re-injure that shoulder. So I would say if you go out somewhere, week 7, 8, I would wear that sling just as a precaution. And your arm will get tired if you don't when you're walking around and it's moving around at that time. My physical therapy started at 2 weeks after the surgery, which seemed a little soon, but actually it's a very slow process. They only have you do a few things just to get your arm moving a little bit. It's graduated up to at 2.5 months. I'm now, I just 2 days ago started doing 5-pound weights with my arm. And so you can see it does progress slowly, but it is a process, and I'm told it takes about 6 months for you to be through your physical therapy and a year for you to be completely healed. That probably varies depending on the person. But I did go back to work part-time at 6 weeks for 1 week, and then went back to full-time at 7 weeks. So if that gives you any idea of recovery time, I'm sure it varies for a lot of people. I'm in IT, so I use a computer all day, and I had to do a lot of one-handed typing with my left hand for that first 2 weeks, I'd say, back to work. So you are limited in what you can do, but depending on your job, I suppose, that is really going to determine when you can go back to work. I would encourage you to watch any videos you can on YouTube about rotator cuff surgery. It'll help put you more at ease ahead of the surgery, and there are some great ones out there with a lot of really good tips. I had my surgery at Ohio State University at the Jameson Crane, and they did a great job. My surgeon was great. My physical therapy's there. It's wonderful. If you are lucky enough to be able to use that facility at Ohio State, I would say go for it. I am a little biased as I work in the history department at Ohio State University, but it is a wonderful facility, and others that I've talked to who have used it have been very impressed with the way people are there and with the surgeons. They're really just wonderful.